Hey guys, today we're going to be starting off with the first episode of the breakdown from episode 1 of the Bad Batch, season 2. So to begin, we start off with Echo, Hunter, and Wrecker running away from some crabs on the beach with the loot that they got from the heist that they were undergoing. Then we have Tech and Echo, or Tech and Omega are bickering over the schematics that Omega should be studying about. And once Omega sees the guys running away from the crabs, she takes out her crossbow and she starts shooting them from distance. And she pretty much gets every single one of them in one shot each time. So this is obviously showing her progression between seasons for shooting skills, as she wasn't really very good in the first season. So she slides down the cable that the guys are trying to get up, and she starts pelting the crabs with the crossbow. And then to move on, then they get back onto the ship and get away. So they go back to Sid's, and Sid has a new heist for them. They're planning on going to Count Dooku's old lair in Serrano. So Hunter and Echo have their differences about this. Hunter is only considering the money for to keep them away from basically doing jobs for Sid, just getting them to safety and keeping them hiding. Whereas Echo has the idea that they should be helping to fight the battle against the Empire, that they should be doing a lot more considering the power they have, and helping the rebels with Rex. So then they make their move onto Sereno. So what happens then is they have a look at the city, and it looks exactly like what Kamino did when they were on Kamino. So the Empire absolutely destroying the landscape after they've no use for the planet. So then Hunter makes a distraction with the ship. The ship's starting nearby to the war chest. He plants a load of bombs while the rest of the crew go and get the loot. So it starts off with Wrecker. He gets the first piece of loot and he leaves the cargo hold. By the time this happens, though, the clone troopers cop that one of their own clone troopers is out of commission that Wrecker had disposed of when he was close by to the group while they were looting. So then the clone troopers find out that there's passengers aboard, and they block off the cargo hold, leaving Omega, Echo, and Tech stranded. So then the cargo hold takes off the ship, and they're stuck on the cargo hold fighting off troopers, whereas Hunter and Wrecker are in Dooku's fortress fighting off some clones of their own while they're trying to escape, and they get separated at the end. To finish off, then they come across a trapdoor, which is pretty cool. This was a scene in Dooku's from the Clone Wars seasons, one of the episodes of Dooku, Anakin, and Obi-Wan, where they go down the trapdoor, which is pretty cool. Nice little touch. So then, at the end, Echo, Tech, and Omega are falling from the sky in one of the cargo holds, and that's where the episode ends. Okay, so we begin episode 2 with Omega, Tech, and Echo falling from the sky in the cargo hold. They're fortunate enough to figure out that the cargo hold had boosters though, so it was slow down the fall. They did take a fairly hefty landing though. So if they eventually land, and they're landing on the side of a mountain, and the Empire put out a search for the clone troopers to go looking for the equipment. Unfortunately, when the crew get out of the cargo hold, Tech has his leg crushed by a box. They then come across to an old man who helps basically get him to safety. He has shelter, and he mentions about, actually it was pretty cool, about Dooku's quest for power basically ruined the entire planet, taking all their money and their landscape. So then what we move on to next is so Hunter radios Echo to say, like in code basically, to radio silence because the Empire are listening it, so they can't figure out where they're going. And again, after this happens, then Omega was really pushing Echo to go and collect the war chest, because she overheard Echo talking to Hunter about the whole situation where Omega's basically at fault for the way they live right now, and they need the money. So then, what happens next? Hunter and Wrecker end up going on a search for a gun, and they come across a Separatist gunner, which Wrecker eventually takes out, and he basically maneuvers into his own rocket, which he has as a sidearm because of the size of him, and he starts firing upon all the clone troopers, and there's a ship coming along as well. And Echo again, he's talking to Tech then when Omega is nowhere to be seen. He's saying how the team should be doing a lot more to help against the fight against the Empire, and if they do gather the money that they could get from the war chest, it would help majorly. And in my opinion, actually, I do think that the team will end up fighting with the rebels, with Rex, and even potentially with Ahsoka. But that's a debate for another day. Omega, so they do eventually cop on, and Omega does go out on her own, try and find the war chest. So she gets a rope so she can go down to the side of the mountain to get into the cargo hold basically. Echo eventually catches up to her. The clone troops arrive and they open fire on Echo and Omega, so they're left stranded in the cargo hold. Tech eventually arrives, obviously, because after fracturing his leg. It's very hard for him to move. He catches the troops off guard, takes them out one by one, very slowly though. Then we cut to a scene where Omega is very desperate to get the loot. She, as I said before, she feels like she's after letting the team down because they're stranded with her and they've had to live a different life on the run constantly. Then we go back there. So then Tech and the old man arrives afterwards, and he helps Tech then get Omega and Echo out of the cargo hold because Tech is struggling with his leg. More troops arrive, but fortunately for them, Hunter and Wrecker arrive in the Marauder and take out the remaining troops. Then when they're on the Marauder, Echo reminds Omega if they didn't take her, the group could be fighting for the Empire rather than against it, which is quite true because look at Crosshair, the way he's turned out, he's fighting for the Empire, he's blindsided by the Empire. So then in the last scene, cuts to Captain Wilco and General Rampart. I honestly thought this was a fantastic scene. It truly showed a difference between General Rampart and Captain Wilco. Wilco being efficient and not willing to break the rules, as he wasn't programmed to do so. Whereas General Rampart is willing to do whatever it takes for, as he says. And see, as he says back in season 1, is Governor Tarkin was to learn he failed in terminating the Bad Batch. He would be at risk, but Wilco wasn't willing to falsify a report, so Rampart eventually does kill him. And we finish off with that scene then, which is a great, unbelievable end to the scene. I really did enjoy it, and it just showed the difference between the normal humans, which the stormtroopers eventually become, and the clones. Clones can't think like that. They follow orders, especially with the inhibitor chip. So, thank you very much for listening if you stayed to the end. If you liked it, please like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Thank you very much.